Welcome back. In this video, we're going to add this history button here at the bottom, as well as set up the history activity with an action bar here at the top that allows us to go back, but nothing else for now. And this is something you should be able to implement yourself. I would recommend that you try this. And if you're done, then check out the video or just jump to the next one. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to require is going to be a new activity, and I'm going to use an empty activity here that I'm going to call history activity. And we're gonna let it generate a layout file for us. The layout file will be very simple. At least for now, we will have a toolbar inside of the constraint layout. So this toolbar will have an ID of toolbar history activity. Its width will be match parent, its height will be action bar size, and the background will be white. So similar to the other activities where we had that same thing. So here in the BMI activity, we also had at the very top this toolbar, and we're doing the same thing now for our history activity. Now inside of the history activity, I'm going to start off by creating my binding object. Okay, so binding activity history binding, which was a nullable, and I'm going to assign null to it. Then in the onCreate method, I'm making sure that my binding object is initialized. So binding will be activity history binding.inflate with the layout inflator as the parameter. And then as the content view, we are using our binding.root object. Okay, so binding.root, or binding object with the root property. And then we are using the set support action bar stuff like we had it here. So let's implement the same thing. Let's copy it from our BMI activity and put it in here, even though we of course need to change the names here. So it will be the toolbar history activity. And the title should be, how did they call it here? History. Okay, so let me change that to be history, like so. Okay, that's our history activity for now. Of course, we want to display some more information here. We're going to use a recycler view displaying all of the exercises that we have done in the past. And now we need to get there at one point, right? So how can we get there? Well, from our main activity, we will need to add, first of all, this little icon here at the bottom, just next to the calculator. So let's do that. Let's go over to our activity main XML. And then at the very bottom, basically do the same thing that we have done before. So we can copy this frame layout with the text view, and we can duplicate it and then make a couple of changes to it. So first of all, this other frame layout will be not the BMI frame layout, but the history frame layout. All right. Then we need to make sure that it's at the bottom of the parent, at the end of the parent, and at the start of the parent. Start to not start of the parent, but this time end of the parent. So we want it to be on the right hand side, and its top should be to the bottom of the FL start. So it should be underneath our frame layout start, which is this frame layout here. You can see it's already dragged towards the right hand side, but it's not fully done yet. So let me go back to the activity main code here. Then let me add a gravity here. So gravity, which will be centered. So therefore I need to have layout gravity first. So layout gravity will be set to center. And this is inside of Android layout gravity. And it's under capital C. Okay, that should be fine. And now we can use the gravity center as well, like so. Then I'm using my image view, which doesn't have a text BMI, but instead it should use an image. Okay, so I'm going to change that using a source. So src Android:src, which will be at drawable. And then I need to import this drawable. I'm going to use my IC calendar here. You can, however, use your own images if you want to. So let me add that drawable in here, IC calendar, which will be this drawable. Okay, so I'm going to use this IC calendar image for my text view and actually make it an image view like so, because it shouldn't be a text view. The text view can be underneath, which should say history, but this is going to actually be an image view instead. Okay, so we have the width, and because we're using an image here, let me use 50 dp for its height and its width. And the layout gravity should be centered as well. We will not need a text size, text color, neither of those things are going to be required. And that should do the trick for the image view. And now underneath we have this text view, which should not say calculator, but it should say history. The text can stay green. It's going to be, however, at the end of our FL history. Okay, and the start of the FL history as well. And at the top to bottom of FL history. So now we just need to make sure that our frame layout is positioned next to the BMI. So I have top to bottom of start, that's fine, but start to end of, that's the one that I need to change. So add ID, and it should be at the end of BMI. Let me see if that's the case. Okay, now it is. You see, now it's at the end of this BMI, so it comes just after it. But as the BMI frame layout, including the text view, they are not at the left-hand side yet. So let's first make sure that end is at start of the FL history. Then the top to bottom, that's fine. And here, bottom to bottom of parent, that should be fine. Let me see. Yep, that's looking a lot better. The calculator, however, is not being positioned, or this text view has to be underneath the BMI. So let me change that as well. And that is this text view, which is underneath the frame layout. So we need to make sure that its end is to end of FL BMI. The start is to start of FL BMI. And now let's check it out. Yeah. So you see, if it's at the start and the end of the FL BMI, it just positions it underneath it. So if it's at the bottom of itself. So it's like we're saying, okay, it should be at the left-hand side of it, it should be at the right-hand side of it, and it should be underneath it. And that's what it creates, this behavior where it's just underneath. Okay, and now we just need to make sure that we can click on it. So inside of the main activity, let's add an on-click listener for our FL history, which will move us to the history activity. Okay, so here I just copied this code and changed the name of the item that we're clicking on and changed the class that we're going to with the intent. So now let's see if we can actually go over and if we see the history being displayed properly on our UI. Okay, so there, let me click on it and we see we're in the history activity and we can go back with the back button at the top there. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next one, we're going to first look at how the room database works, because we want to store data permanently, and that will be done in the next video. So see you there.